Hey everybody, I got another video coming to you guys about Bitcoin today, and I'm actually going to be talking about the Lightning Network. Now, the Lightning Network is probably the most interesting thing in blockchain technology that's going to be rolled out. What it is it's an off-chain or an off-blockchain payment system, and it basically eliminates blockchain bloat for the most part. It allows Bitcoin to be used as a global payment system. Even if you were using Lightning, there would be some sort of limits in order to limit blockchain bloat too much. But anyways, the way that Lightning works is it takes all transactions off the Bitcoin blockchain, and by doing that, like, you don't have as many transactions on the Bitcoin blockchain. It doesn't take all of them off, but basically the idea would be that each person on Earth would only use 2 Bitcoin transactions per day, and the rest of the transactions would be done over the Lightning Network. So the Lightning Network would keep instant accounts of how much money you would have, but then those 2 transactions during the day that you would do actually on the Bitcoin network, that would just be to catch up to all the transactions that had been done on the Lightning Network. So basically all the transactions are done on the Lightning Network, but then the Bitcoin blockchain and the power of the blockchain just basically catches up to all the transactions that are done twice a day. So that's basically how it would work. And so this is very interesting. So again, the reason, like, the purpose for Lightning is to fix the blockchain bloat, because if you're only doing 2 transactions per day, then obviously that's a lot less bloat than if everyone in the world had to use Bitcoin for every transaction, the actual blockchain for Bitcoin. There's no way you could have a blockchain that would function that way. So the Lightning Network makes it so that you can use Bitcoin on a global scale, and it does it by working as a clearinghouse. And again, all that means is that you're not actually going to be moving Bitcoin when you're transacting with Bitcoin all the time, and it'll just get moved every once in a while. And that's basically how a bank works anyway. So like with a bank has so much money in its vault, and it doesn't actually move the money for every transaction. It just it keeps records of everyone's accounts, and then if somebody comes to ask for their money, it gives them their money. So it's similar to that. But anyways, I don't want anybody to confuse that with fractional reserve banking. I'm not going to get into that topic right now, but this wouldn't be a fractional reserve system. It would just mean, your money is always there and ready to be taken, out. Like, you can transact in the Bitcoin blockchain with it. It's just they'd prefer you not to, because it makes the network have issues. So that's the purpose of the Lightning Network. And then the third point here is that Lightning eliminates bloat, not fees. A lot of people think that it eliminates fees. It will severely reduce, it'll reduce fees per transaction, but technically speaking, Lightning actually increases fees overall in the network. So the total fee paid by all users will increase, but the transaction paid or the fee paid per transaction by each user will decrease. So transaction fees, those decrease per transaction, but overall the amount of fees collected by the network increases. So Lightning's actually there for bloat. And then again, the fourth point, all transactions are done off the blockchain. One reason why you really need to understand that is because it sort of differs from Satoshi's vision. 4 and 5 are kind of similar. They're kind of together. You can't then trace your transactions as easily over the Lightning Network. Now, they haven't released it yet, so you might actually be able to, trace your own transactions through the Lightning Network. You might be able to do that without having a blockchain, but that would cause some centralization, and then that would mean that you would have Bitcoin would become almost like a payment system like MasterCard or something. I don't know. It gets real interesting talking about what that would make Bitcoin. The Lightning Network makes it so it's possible to scale on globally. So it's a massive improvement, but it does fundamentally change some things about Bitcoin. And just so everybody knows, when we're talking about this, people will say, when Lightning comes out, Bitcoin's gonna fork, and that's probably true, but Bitcoin has already forked because of Lightning. The Bitcoin Cash fork was actually due to the Lightning Network. People weren't sure that, because the Bitcoin Cash fork, like it happened before Lightning has come out, obviously, but I think it happened when Bitcoin went to SegWit, and SegWit laid the foundation for the Lightning network. They got to get rid of transaction malleability too, or something like that. But anyways, Bitcoin Cash was a fork basically in response to the coming Lightning Network, and you can expect more to come because it does, like when you use the Lightning Network, because you're taking transactions off the blockchain, you can't just look at the blockchain and see every transaction that has ever occurred. I've said before that you don't need to see every transaction. You just need to make sure that the network's accurate, but some people don't like that. And again, that's my own personal opinion, but this is sort of different because it operates like it'll actually operate like a Tor network. I'll end up talking about that later on. So it sort of changes the privacy, and actually, I'll talk about that in this slide. But yeah, so if we're talking about blockchain just being a bloat killer, we already talked about how it reduces transactions on the blockchain, but it operates like a Tor network in that when you're paying someone, your payment won't go directly to that person. So the way that the Lightning Network works is that basically on the Lightning Network, you're going to have a lot of big users. So like let's say Walmart has an account on the Lightning Network. Well, Walmart has transactions with a lot of people on the Lightning Network, and the way that the transactions are instant and they can be done with without having to put a lot of data on a blockchain is that you can just reverse and move transactions through different users. So a big user like Walmart or some big bank like JP Morgan Chase, something like that, they have a lot of transactions between different individuals. So let's say there's like Joey and Bob, and Joey and Bob have both bought, at the same Walmart, and Joey wants to pay Bob. So the Lightning Network, if they don't already have a connection between Joey and Bob, they can just find a connection between Joey and Bob using the Walmart as the middleman. And so it's basically a system, like it's a whole network where it's like all you need is some way to pay somebody, and like the routes to pay somebody are based sort of on past payments that have been made. And so that's the way it works. And so this sort of changes the privacy involved, because when you send money on the blockchain, you send it directly, and that's how you can check on the blockchain where you sent your money. But if you use the Lightning Network, when you send money to somebody, it might go through 1,000 different accounts before it reaches the final destination. So you'll have no idea exactly how it got sent there. But I mean, does it really matter so long as the money gets sent there? No, it really doesn't. But you got to make sure that this Bitcoin Lightning works, and that's the centralization issue that we'll talk about later on. And when I say here, this bottom point is trustless, and I just said it's centralized, and you might think that these are sort of conflicting statements, but it's trustless in that it's all run on code, and the nodes are paid money, and they don't actually see exactly what's going on, but they're paid money if the transaction is accepted. So they're only paid so long as they do their job, and they can't steal the money. The centralization I was talking about is that whoever creates the Lightning code, like it's centralized such that if the Lightning code fails, the whole thing fails. Just like if the Tor code fails, the whole thing fails. So it's not centralized like the Federal Reserve is centralized, but it's centralized in that whoever, like if the code for Lightning fails, then Lightning fails. That's just the way it is. So if we look at our next point here, and I say where I say that Lightning works as a bank clearinghouse, what this means is that all the off-chain transactions are cleared after a set time. They did the math, and they basically figured out you could do Bitcoin for the whole world without increasing the blockchain by too much. Like it would still be easily doable if you use servers for connecting to the blockchain. You might actually be able to do it just on really high-end computers. I'd have to reread the paper I read on it. But anyways, you can do it you can scale Bitcoin to the whole world so long as people only use 2 transactions a day. So it basically mean you have instant transactions on the Lightning Network, and then the blockchain just catches up after, let's say it's every 12 hours you have 1 transaction on the Bitcoin network just to catch up. And so it reduces the on-chain transactions. transactions by a lot. There will still be a huge number of transactions on the Bitcoin network, but again, they will be limited just because of the blockchain bloat. But there will still be a large number of transactions on the Bitcoin network. But most of the transactions will be done on the Lightning network. And then the other thing about the Lightning Network is that because it's an off-chain thing, it requires nodes off-chain to basically run the Lightning Network. So I don't know exactly how this is going to work. They haven't released Lightning yet, so the only people who really know are the insiders, and I'm not working on the project, so we'll just have to see exactly how that works. Again, the one thing to remember about the nodes is that the nodes will not get paid unless they complete their task, and so there's nothing you have to worry about. There's no weird incentives. The only thing you have to worry about is if you use the Lightning Network. If the Lightning Network fails, then it has failed, and there's nothing you can do about it. And so you'll have to understand, they'll have to be very open with the coding and different vulnerabilities and what to do if something goes wrong. There's just going to be a lot when they come out with Lightning. It's going to be a massive update to the entire cryptocurrency ecosystem. I guess I'll talk about this later. One thing to remember about the Lightning Network is it's all smart contracts too. I made a video, I guess I'll just talk about the whole thing right now, but I made a video on Chainlink saying that oracles aren't that useful as far as smart contracts are concerned. The Lightning Network allows instant payments over blockchains, and it allows it to scale to the entire, globally. And there's no oracle use in the Lightning Network. Now you can add oracles to the top of the Lightning Network after the Lightning Network has been implemented, but this again was my whole argument against Chainlink, and it goes like this, is that oracles for smart contracts only get the transaction fees, but something like Bitcoin, not only will you get the growth associated with smart contracts, but you also get the growth of just growing a currency to a global currency. So before Bitcoin grows due to smart contracts, it will grow because it will become a global currency. Something like Chainlink is not a global currency, so it can only receive growth from the growth of smart contracts. So Bitcoin or Ethereum gets both, and Chainlink only gets one, so you're never going to make as much money with Chainlink. I'm not saying you're not going to make money with it, I'm just saying you're not going to make as much money with it. But again, I just wanted to cover this because the Lightning Network is a smart contract network. Smart contracts, it's a very broad thing if you're talking about smart contracts. So if you start investing in smart contract technology, you better know what you're investing in, because the biggest smart contract technology directly applies to cryptocurrencies, and Chainlink is not a cryptocurrency. So you're going to make more money investing in a cryptocurrency because of things like the Lightning Network that only apply to cryptocurrencies. But the fourth point, all these transactions, they're done off the blockchain. So again, basically what Lightning does, it just outsources all the blockchain work. And again, because it just it uses the connections that people have already established and just sort of reverses or accepts different transactions at will to make sure that the final balances all equal out. Through this outsourcing, it just makes it super efficient. And again, because even though it's off-chain, it's still trustless, so you don't have to trust any of the nodes. They're going to operate honestly, because if they don't, then they don't make any money, and they don't do anything in the system. The only thing you have to trust is the people who created the Lightning Network's code. So you do have to trust something when you're using the Lightning Network. So it should be open source, though. I don't really know. I haven't looked at the code, so I can't validate that the code's good, because Lightning doesn't exist yet. But the final point here on these off-chain transactions is that it differs from Satoshi's vision. And again, all these other cryptocurrencies coming out also differ from Satoshi's vision, and a lot of them are actually better than Satoshi's vision in certain ways. So Satoshi was not like some sort of god that you have to bow down to, and everything he said was exactly perfect truth. That's not the way it is, but it like I said before, the Bitcoin Cash fork happened because of this. So this is a controversial issue within the Bitcoin network, and that is my final point here. And then That's just that the off-chain transactions of Lightning don't necessarily ensure public auditability. So what I mean by that is, can you check all the transactions and make sure they're all valid? I don't know if you can on the Lightning Network. It brings up a lot of interesting questions, and these, like, they'll have to be answered. Technically speaking, you should be able to trust that it all has occurred accurately, but you won't be able to verify in the way that you can with a blockchain. So again, it's, the Lightning Network should work fine, and so I'm a big fan of it, but it will fundamentally change Bitcoin, and so, forks are going to come because of it. There already have been a lot of forks. I don't like a lot of the forks that come out, like Bitcoin Gold seems like dog shit. Bitcoin Cash, I never really liked Bitcoin Cash, but now the price is getting low enough that it might be worth holding on to, because if Lightning comes out and if Lightning messes up, then Bitcoin Cash would be something to fall back on. Like, it could actually rise in value, but I don't really know. I had always originally planned on selling my Bitcoin Cash originally, because I had a bunch of Bitcoin, so why not just sell the Bitcoin Cash and get free money? But now I might hold on to them. Who knows? Who knows? But anyways, again, if this is implemented, yeah, you'll get a lot of forks, but that's the Lightning Network as a whole. And the main things you got to remember is that the Lightning Network, it fixes blockchain bloat by acting as a bank clearinghouse and taking all the transactions off the blockchain. Not all the transactions, but all the transactions on the Lightning Network are off the blockchain, and then you only have to do a couple transactions on the blockchain to catch up to the Lightning Network. So through doing this, Lightning eliminates the bloat. It doesn't eliminate fees. The total fees paid by the network will go up, but what it will do is, by eliminating bloat, the fees per transaction will drop dramatically, so it's great. It'll allow Bitcoin to scale globally, so it'll just be great. The transactions, again, they're done off the blockchain, and because of this, it's a little controversial. Like I said, if you want to make something like Bitcoin or any sort of blockchain global, you have to have something like Lightning. So it's completely necessary, but it does fundamentally change some things about Bitcoin. So, it's something that should be watched with keen interest, should be good for the network, but, always be wary. There's always vulnerabilities to any system. So just make sure, when Lightning comes out, the code has to be solid. It absolutely has to be solid. But anyways, that's all I got to say about the Lightning Network. As always, I'll be coming out with new videos in the future.